Why Newcastle made the signing of the season in Woltemade. They called it madness when Newcastle spent a club record £69 million on him, a relative unknown German striker from Stuttgart. But Nick Woltemade doesn't fit the mould. Standing 6'6", built like a traditional target man, yet he moves with a technical comfort that shouldn't exist at his size. How does that even work? He scored the winner on his Premier League debut, then backed it up with a Champions League goal weeks later. Suddenly, Newcastle's gamble didn't look so mad. And trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why this might genuinely be the signing of the season. Before we get into the Newcastle bit, we need to talk about where Woltemade actually came from. Because this isn't some wonder kid who's been tearing up Europe since he was 17. Nick Woltemade spent over a decade in Werder Bremen's academy, 10 years of German football education. He broke into their senior team in 2020, but his numbers there were underwhelming. 2 goals in 51 appearances across all competitions. Not exactly setting the world on fire, is it? However, here's where it gets interesting. Woltemade went out on loan to clubs like SV Elversberg. Never heard of them either. And that's where he started scoring goals and developing the movement that scouts noticed. These loan spells turned potential into something tangible. Then Stuttgart took a punt on him at the start of the 2024-25 season, and something clicked. He scored 17 goals in 33 games and helped them win the DFB Pokal. 12 of those came in 27 Bundesliga matches. Not bad for a lad who's 6'6", which, by the way, is properly massive. Early in his career, Woltemade was labelled a raw target man. Big lad, good in the air, a bit limited technically. You know the type. But at Stuttgart, he evolved. Coaching reports started highlighting his technical comfort on the ball, his timing of runs, and his link-up play. He wasn't just a jumper anymore, he was becoming a modern tall striker who could carry the ball, drop between lines, and finish. That transformation is crucial to understanding why Newcastle were willing to pay what they paid. Newcastle officially announced Woltemade on August 30th, 2025, as their club record signing. The fee? Well, that depends on which outlet you trust. ESPN reported £64.9 million. Transfer Market said €85 million, plus €5 million in add-ons. Some places rounded it to £69 million. The point is, it was a lot of money. And the reason Newcastle moved so quickly was simple. Alexander Isak had just left for Liverpool in a deal worth around £126 million, and Eddie Howe suddenly had a gaping hole up front. Newcastle needed a striker immediately, and they needed one with a different profile from what they'd lost. But here's where it gets spicy. The criticism was instant and loud. Rival fans questioned whether Woltemade had the pedigree, pundits flagged his lack of top-level experience. Additionally, Rummenigge, who let's remember knows a thing or two about German football, essentially called Newcastle mugs for paying that price. The narrative was set: overpay, panic buy, risky. However, Newcastle's rationale was clear. They needed to plug the hole immediately, and they wanted a striker who offered something different tactically. Was that worth a club record fee? Well, that's the tension. That's what sets up the rest of this story. Meanwhile, Eddie Howe had already begun conversations with Woltemade, conversations that would prove far more important than anyone initially realized. When you sign for a club record fee after they've just sold their best striker, the pressure is ridiculous. Not every player can handle that. Some crumble, some go missing. Woltemade? He scored a header to beat Wolves 1-0 on his Premier League debut. September 13th. Newcastle's first league win of the season. Instant arrival moment. That single goal silenced a significant portion of the early doubters and gave Newcastle fans something they desperately needed: hope. Then, just over 2 weeks later, he scored in a 4-0 Champions League away win over Union Saint-Gilloise. That's 2 competitions, 2 crucial goals, and suddenly the doubters had a lot less to say. And look, it's not like he walked into an easy situation either. Newcastle had injuries. Callum Wilson was out, there were rotation issues, Therefore, Woltemade had to earn his stripes and he seized the responsibility. Early on, the chemistry with Anthony Gordon and Miguel Almiron started to click. The midfield trio of Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, and whoever else Howe picked could feed him properly. The pieces fit. So when people talk about whether Newcastle overpaid, they're confronted with this: a player who delivered match-defining moments almost immediately. A player who didn't need months to adapt. A player who, frankly, looks like he belongs. Can you really put a price on that kind of immediate impact? Here's where we get into the tactical stuff. Eddie Howe's Newcastle side demands pressing, mobility, and link-up play from their forwards. They need a physical focal point, sure, but they also need someone who can carry the ball forward and connect play. Woltemade provides all of that. Additionally, he brings a psychological profile that Howe identified as essential for handling the pressure of replacing a player like Isak. Howe himself explained the signing in a way that's genuinely refreshing. He said it wasn't purely about stats or data. In his Friday press conference, Howe admitted that from the first conversation he had with Woltemade,
absolutely incredible from him, and I think his attitude while doing it's been first class.
He felt the psychological profile was right. The belief, the ability to absorb pressure and retain confidence even if goals don't come immediately. That gut feeling, Howe said, mattered more than any statistical model. However, the data backs it up anyway. According to FBref and scouting reports, Woltemade ranks in a very high percentile for successful take-ons. For a striker, a 6'6" striker, that's mad, isn't it? He also has a solid progressive carry numbers for his size, which means he's comfortable driving forward with the ball at his feet, not something you'd expect from a traditional target man. Therefore, tactically, Woltemade can operate as a lone striker or as part of a partnership. He drops between the lines to link with Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali. He makes diagonal and horizontal runs to create pockets of space, and crucially, he offers Newcastle a different dimension to what they had with Isak. Isak was quick, mobile, and excellent in tight spaces. Meanwhile, Woltemade is powerful, tall, excellent in the air, but also surprisingly technical. Howe now has options, different tactical setups, different ways to break teams down, and that versatility is already proving to be a massive edge. Let's bring it all together. When you compare Woltemade to other expensive signings from the summer, players who've struggled to justify their price tags early on, his output per pound looks genuinely strong. He's added depth and a distinct tactical dimension to Newcastle's attack across both domestic and European matches, and he's done this while adapting to a new league, a new country, and the weight of being a club record signing. Those who screamed overpayment after the signing, they're now confronted by decisive goals, consistent contributions, and a player who looks comfortable at this level. The fan reaction tells you everything you need to know. Reddit threads on NUFC and soccer went from skepticism to Volta-Messi chants within weeks. The mood shifted, and if Newcastle overperform this season, if they push for a Champions League spot, if they go deep in Europe, Woltemade's signing will be one of the obvious reasons why. He didn't just fill a gap, he changed Newcastle's attacking ceiling. He gave Howe tactical flexibility that wasn't there before. And he delivered when the pressure was at its highest. For instance, the debut goal against Wolves wasn't just 3 points, it was validation. It was proof that Newcastle's recruitment team had seen something others missed. That's why, despite all the noise, despite Rummenigge's snide remarks, despite the initial doubt, this might genuinely be the signing of the season. So there you have it, an overlooked Bundesliga talent who became a club record signing and then delivered early match-defining contributions. Newcastle took a calculated risk, accepted the criticism, and the reward is already starting to show. If this season goes the way Newcastle hopes it does, history might record Nick Woltemade as the signing that made it all possible. But here's the question. Will Woltemade's impact hold up for a full Premier League season, or is this just the honeymoon phase? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more videos like this.